Hi guys, how are you all today morning? Good morning. Today is 5th January 2023 4. Sorry, 5th January 2024. My name is TSV Raghavan and I live in Chennai, Tamil Nadu, India. This is my spiritual vlog on YouTube. HARDAN, 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 Haribol, TSV Nectar, NECTAR, nectar. In this particular vlog, in all my previous videos, we have been trying to discuss about the knowledge and information that we have gleaned through the study of spiritual books, scriptures, contemplation on the material universe, and meditation on the spiritual universe. This particular video in this vlog is no exception to that rule. In fact, it is a mere continuation of all that we have been trying to do in all my previous videos. Kindly subscribe to this vlog and press the bell icon so that I may keep reminding you of all my previous, present, and future videos. So let us continue with the topic of discussion for today's video. In the past few videos, we have been discussing and analyzing in detail about a particular term that plays an extremely perennial role in the life and psyche of every human living entity, whether male or female, in a particular lifetime in this material world. This particular term is called mind. This mind, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna of the Hindu mythology, is the main instrument that drives this human chariot called the human living entity, whether male or female. This he has specifically mentioned in the segment of the great Hindu epic called the Mahabharata. This segment is known as Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You may kindly believe that the great scientist Oppenheimer, who invented the atom bomb and was from Germany, actually remembered a shloka or hymn or a phrase from this very Srimad Bhagavad Gita when he saw the first atom bomb exploding and coming into action. He remembered the particular phrase called the opulence of the Absolute, where the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, reveals his true appearance to his own disciple and best friend and cousin Arjuna, the Pandava prince. There, when Arjuna is baffled by the radiance of his color and the appearance of his true form, and he is not able to see it with his naked eyes. Lord Krishna tells him this effulgence is because he is like 1,000 suns. Oppenheimer specifically remembered this very phrase when he saw the atom bomb explode for the first time during a trial. The atom bomb was as radiant as 1,000 suns. So important is Srimad Bhagavad Gita that even a German scientist who invented the atom bomb could only remember this phrase from Srimad Bhagavad Gita when he tried to explode a particular atom bomb during a trial period. It is from this Srimad Bhagavad Gita that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, mentions to his best friend and cousin Arjuna, the Pandava prince, about this very mind. According to Lord Krishna, this human living entity of four layers of material body enveloping a particular individual spirit soul is just like a human chariot. In this chariot, there are five horses that are driving this chariot. These five horses represent the five senses of every human living entity, mainly sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Because each horse is connected to a different sense, hence, when the chariot begins running, all these horses which are driving in this particular chariot try to run in different directions according to their own sense of sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. To rein them together and to make them go in a particular direction, you need one chariot driver. According to Srimad Bhagavad Gita, this driver is known as intelligence. Logic of the intelligence reins these five senses together so that this particular chariot may go in a particular direction, which is its actual purpose in life. There is only one passenger in that chariot. He is sitting in the passenger seat, and this particular passenger is none other than the raw, unevolved, individual spirit soul which had long back in its overconfidence and ignorance tried to get in touch with this very material world, and in that process got enveloped in four layers of material body, and from then on it has got into an endless cycle of births and deaths, enjoying or suffering all the pains of life in this material world. However, we are discussing about one another instrument in that chariot. It is this instrument which is called the mind. The mind is the main instrument that drives this chariot or vehicle called the human living entity, whether male or female. This mind is for this living entity just like what an engine is for every machinery, or what a chip is for every electronic equipment. Just like the chip drives the electronic equipment and the engine drives the vehicle or the machinery, similarly, the mind drives this human living entity. Just like in the absence of a particular chip or an engineer for its respective electronic equipment, vehicle, or machinery, that particular machinery, vehicle, or electronic equipment becomes redundant and has henceforth only scrap value. Similarly, in the absence of this particular mind, the living entity drops its gross body, and the three layers of subtle body vanish into the ether in the space, thus making this vehicle called the human living entity redundant, dead, and of only scrap value. In other words, the main reason why a particular human living entity is alive and kicking is because of the presence of this mind in the four layers of material body. Now, while we were discussing about this mind, we were intrigued by why and how the individual mind of every human living entity, whether male or female, works. In that process, we divided the total multitude of human living entities in a society during a lifetime in this material world into three categories. One which is 75% of humanity, both male and female, is mundane, zombie like, in a vegetative state and is living peacefully to eke out a living when it is born in this material world. It does not have any other ambition but to work, earn a living, and reproduce some offspring to carry on with his or her family. This is known in Hindi as Eda Bankar Peda Khana. That is, a person who is sanguine enough to dream hopefully that all is well if he or she keeps vegetating in this society without having any positive or negative purpose in life. This is 75% of the multitude of the society at any given time. Of the 25% of the rest of this humanity, 20% belongs to those who have a purpose in life, but that purpose is controlled by the dark negative forces present in this material world and have been so for times immemorial. The rest 5% belongs to those human entities who have a positive approach towards life and a positive purpose, as a result of which they are either positively material or positively spiritual or both. While discussing the mind and its working, we have been discussing about various case histories which vouch for our theory or our question or query about how and why the mind of any average individual living entity works in a particular direction or goes in a particular direction according to his or her state in this society. We discussed several case histories, and nowadays we are discussing that of those 20% who worship this particular dark negative force existing in this material world because they got gravitated towards it, thinking that this held their true purpose in life. In that process, we have been discussing about one particular human living entity who is a very interesting case study in our own talk about mind. The name of this particular human living entity is Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar, who happened to be one of the warlords and underworld figures internationally renowned, hailing from India, relocating to the Middle East of West Asia, and ultimately settling in a very different city called Karachi in Pakistan. We are talking about lives and time of this very Dawood Ibrahim. In the initial few videos, we talked about the initial life of this very person called Dawood Ibrahim Kaskar. We know that his father was a police constable in the Nagpada area of Mumbai, the commercial capital of Maharashtra state in India. We also know how Daud climbed the ladders of this dark negative underworld to come up as a successful gangster and businessman. He was involved in a running war with another very powerful gang called the Pathan gang, which was operating in his own turf. In that process, he contacted a Hindu gangster called Rajan Nair or Bada Rajan, who accepted to help Dawood Ibrahim kill one Pathan gangster called Nawabzada Jangres Khan, who was of such an awesome reputation that even the local police and judiciary was scared of him. Balarajan had one very loyal henchman and hitman called David Pardesi. David Pardesi was an expert hitman, but he had one very bad vice. This guy was mostly inebriated and drunk. He was never or seldom in his senses. One day, when this Nawab Dada Jangres Khan was arrested by the local police and produced before a local court in Bombay, this very hitman called David Pardesi in an inebriated state went there to the courtroom and shot Nawab Zada Jangres Khan dead. However, because of his drunk state, this David Pardesi could not escape from the courtroom and he was promptly caught by a police inspector called Mr. Isaac Bhagavan. When this happened, the Pathan gang was baffled by this sudden development. It never expected the Hindu gangsters to join with Dawood Ibrahim to fight with them in this running turf war. As told by us in my previous video, the actual original Hindu Don who controlled these Hindu gangsters had specifically told them never to interfere with the other gangs' warfare between themselves and that his own gang should keep neutral and should be non-aligned in that process. Rajan Nair or Bada Rajan, who was a protege of the same Hindu don called Vardharaja Mudaliar, had crossed his line. As a result of this, Vardharajan Mudaliar made it known to the underworld of that period that he was no more a protector of Rajan Nair. The news of such anger from Vardharaja Mudaliar and his subsequent indifference towards his own protege called Rajan Nair took this underworld by surprise initially, but then it was accepted by them as it was already expected. As soon as this happened, the police force, which also respected this decision of Varadaraja Mudalya, arrested Balarajan for his role in the murder of Nawabzada Jangres Khan in a courtroom in Bombay. When this happened, the Pathan gang retaliated quickly. It contacted one particular criminal from the Hindu underworld called Mahesh Dholakia, who, with his own brothers, was running his own den of crime from a hotel called Caesar Palace in one particular locality in Bombay. The Pathan gang approached Mahesh Dholakia and told him to find one hitman who could kill Bada Rajan. There was one gangster, a low level gangster called Chandrasekhar Safaliga. Here we would take a detour. By now, we know how the mind of Balarajan, Vardharaja Mudalya, Nawabzada Jangres Khan, Dawood Ibrahim, etc. worked. We will now delve deep into the mind of this very Chandrasekhar Safalika. Chandrasekhar Savalika was a very low level gangster who had long back gravitated towards the underworld of Bombay, which represented the dark negative forces of the material world. But he was not as intelligent, resourceful, or equipped as Mahesh Dholakia, Dawood Ibrahim, or Bada Rajan. He was actually in the fringe of this very underworld. Fringe means the twilight zone between the actual dark negative forces called underworld and the positive forces in the society in a particular lifetime. Chandrasekhar Safalika only needed some money so that he could use it to get his own elder sister married off in a decent way who and go into the positive line as soon as possible. This guy probably belonged to the vegetative ordinary 75% multitude of the society. He was neither in the 20% category nor in the 5% chosen one category. However, because of his desperation, he approached Mahesh Dholakia and took the contract to bump off this very awesome gangster called Bala Rajan. We shall discuss this particular very interesting story in my next video. This is all I wanted to talk about in this particular video. Kindly let me know what you think of my talk on this particular subject in this particular video. Please give me your own expert opinions, thoughts, ideas, and views so that I may blend everything together for the sake of this society. Before concluding, let me remind you that I am also a published author with Amazon, Kindle, and paperback. I write on spiritualism, fiction, and assorted subjects. Spiritualism happens to be my favorite subject. Till we meet in my next video, it is good morning from TSV Raghavan.